Hello and welcome to the Tea House Hall. This is your humble proprietor, Belial. Thanks for taking a seat with me today and discussing a bit. Just want to say first, Ramadan Kareem and Ramadan Mubarak to everybody. If you're observing Ramadan this year, we are now in the middle of it, I'd say. And we're starting to learn a little bit about it. We're starting to gain the blessings of the barakah of being in this month. Hopefully you're starting to learn a bit about yourself. We embark on this journey of Ramadan every year, and it is an alchemical transformation of the soul and the self. Very so putting ourselves in the position of turning milk into butter or lead into gold, to use a different expression. Imam al-Ghazali, of course, referred to this as an alchemical transformation itself. I'd say that as we move into this month, we hopefully start to see those reflections in ourselves and who we are as people, who we are and who we're trying to become. Who do we see ourselves as? What is the authentic expression of your own being? That's really what we're forced to confront during Ramadan. As you fast, you become hungry, dehydrated. You start to, the only thing you can do, and you start to the only thing you can do, which is to contemplate, to think, to pray, read Quran. When you can't do essentially anything else, you're forced to confront your own self. This Ramadan has taught me a few things so far, and one lesson I really tried to take home is that I need to check my intentions about essentially everything I do. What is my intention when I do something? Why am I doing it? Or if I'm upset at somebody, is it me or is it them? And it's usually me. I've also had to learn how to let things go. As people can be very emotionally heightened during these times, I've come across a few situations where I've noticed that people out of piety essentially may act in a way that appears to be rude, but it's not based off of the rudeness in and of itself. And even if it is, it's our duty, it's my duty, as a Muslim during this holy month, to essentially just excuse the behavior. It's best to give your brother 1,000 excuses. If you can't find any excuse for him, then the fault is with yourself. And I've certainly worked my best to try to be as understanding to people as possible during this time. I've also learned that I try a bit too hard. I try a bit too hard to be seen as part of my community, whereas the best thing and the most authentic expression of myself is to understand that I'm a pretty private person in general. I show up on Fridays at my mosque. I go to Jummah, and after Jummah, I sit and I read Quran a bit. And I've been doing that a little bit more lately, and I have to say I enjoy when nobody realizes I am there. But in some way, I do find the treat of having somebody speak to me very nice. But I would say that I try too hard to try to make friends and to try to be seen as part of my community, when really the best approach I can come up with is my most authentic approach, which is that I'm socially awkward and I'm quiet and I sometimes have a very low social battery for people, even though I have this outward joyous kind of version of myself that I kind of put out there. And I am a happy person in general, and I love hugging people and saying hi and the like, but at the same time, I have this very unique kind of maybe not unique, but social battery sort of situation where I need to get away from people, or I enjoy being by myself. But also, I've been trying to get over my social awkwardness. I haven't spent that many nights in the masjid this Ramadan. I enjoy kind of solo contemplation, but I think I really do need to kind of get over that social anxiety and essentially just not try so hard. Just go to the night prayers and just try to do my best and not worry about being seen as someone who's weird or someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Because a lot of times, I think it may just be my own nafs or my own ego, but sometimes being a revert, people assume you really don't know much, and I'm not a scholar, and I'm not the most intelligent person on the planet, but I do know a little bit, and I've discovered that the best thing I can do is to essentially be quiet. And if I can take that energy to the masjid more often, where I just observe and be quiet and not try so hard to become friends with people, maybe people will genuinely start to like me. Or it's not that people don't like me, but maybe I'm just trying too hard. Maybe I shouldn't care. Maybe I think the lesson I'm learning is that I shouldn't care about being liked by people. If I'm just doing my own thing, being polite and not bothering anybody, what's the issue? I like being a private person. I like my own self. And that's something that's been confronted with me this Ramadan. I've also been struggling a lot with my obsessive compulsive disorder, which also flares up during this time as we are fasting, and that can affect the symptoms of that disorder. And I think in a weird way it's helped me a bit. And having this disorder pushed to the extreme, and me having to say, like, you know what? If I'm obsessed over this thing, it would be something else. If I wasn't obsessed over this, it would be something else. I've also maintained my own recovery during this time. As you guys know from maybe some previous talks, I had a chemical dependency substance issue for a while. And it's been good to still keep going to meetings and to maintain that circle that I have, even in this time where I'm more focused on spiritual matters. I've also very much delved into the Quran, and it's something that I fall in love with every time that I take a chance to read it. I am that kind of person who likes to listen to it nightly, but sitting down to read it is something that I love. It reminds me of the first time I picked up the Quran many years ago and just started really delving into it. And you fall in love with it every time. Every time the Lord of the world speaks to you, you fall back in love with him. And that's something I really enjoy. This Ramadan is going by fast, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of issues within the Republic in the United States and globally at this time. And a lot of it, Islam is at the front center of it. There's the mostly as the kind of boogeyman or punching bag of a lot of situations. But I think that Ramadan is not supposed to be a time where we're comfortable. It's the exact opposite. We're supposed to be uncomfortable during Ramadan. And my uncomfortability and our uncomfortability in the West as Muslims is not the same as those who live within the historic lands of Dar al-Islam. We as American Muslims, as Western Muslims, aren't living in the Islamic Republic of Iran and dealing with a war of aggression by the United States, my own country, and the State of Israel. We don't deal with genocide against us in the States, unless, of course, you happen to have family there, of course, and may Allah protect them. But as a daily course of our lives, the majority of us, the hardship and the uncomfortability we face is less existential and more internal. And maybe that uncomfortability will help us grow, as people, as we confront what it means to be Muslim in the West. I believe, and I've said this before, that the West is in a decline as a civilizational state, essentially, a civilizational area. I don't know how to say that precisely, but certainly there is a moral decay, and there is an economic decay, and there's a population decay. I am of the controversial opinion that we, as in European Americans, could easily be saved by Islam, which is something that I sternly believe in, that Islam could fix a lot of the issues we have within ourselves, and within our community, if you can call it a community. But I think if I get into that too much, I'll be discussing an entirely different topic, which would be just the insularization of the Islamic community in America. How essentially people and this is a thing in the West in general, where Muslims will essentially go into their own little ethnic enclaves and not be pushing the dawah out, which is how, historically Islam has been spread, is through dawah from people who go off to far off lands and they bring the message. That's how Islam came to the subcontinent and to Indonesia and as far as China. And I do see a kind of an almost failure of like the on the ground Muslims to spread that dawah. Although I'm not speaking of social media personalities and the like, but there is that, there is that, and there is some good work being done. But I think as Euro-American Muslims, we have a duty to give dawah to our people because they need it. We need it. Anyways, that's something I'm thinking of. But as I said, comfortability is the enemy of growth. And during Ramadan, we're not supposed to be comfortable. We're dealing with massive amounts of hatred towards us as a people group, as a civilizational group of people. I don't know exactly what I'm getting at with that terminology, but Muslims are not well liked by a lot of powerful organizations, and they essentially are threatened by the presence of Islam. And you can get into some kind of a spiritual warfare, as the evangelicals like to call it, but that having to do with the what's said in the Epstein files with the worship of the Canaanite god Baal, for example, and how it always seems to be coming against the God of Abraham. But neither here nor there. I don't mean to sound like a strange person. Maybe that's a video for another time. But once we experience this uncomfortability and this anger towards us, it leads to great spiritual growth. It's no coincidence that when we are faced with a massive amount of hatred for being Muslim, that Islam just tends to grow. Either way, we should turn inward as well towards ourselves as individuals to grow in our understanding of our deen and the understanding of ourselves. To know thyself is to know God, as the Delphic expression is said. But this Ramadan is going by fast, and I certainly am learning a lot of lessons in it. Maybe it's not going the way that I had intended it to go, but I'm not the one who decides that. I simply have plans, and and the best of planners decides how it actually goes. Anyway, this has been kind of Belial's kind of mid-Ramadan video to speak of. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe. If not, that's okay. I'm glad you made it this far. If you want to like it, you can go ahead and like it. And I'm hoping to do some more of these conversational videos moving forward, maybe with a few different topics. I realize I'm kind of sporadic about uploading, but I'm just busy with life, and I really would like to keep doing these videos, as they do help me kind of articulate myself and to process my own thoughts. Either way, Ramadan Mubarak and Ramadan Kareem. Thank you all for joining me, and thanks for sitting down in the tea house today. This has been your humble proprietor, Belial, and have a good night, okay?